Since Donald Trump's return to office, he and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni have been pretty much best buds. Trump has variously described Meloni as, quote, beautiful, fantastic, and a great leader, while Meloni's apparent influence in Washington was the main reason that Politico crowned her the most powerful person in Europe last year. However, in the past week or so, relations suddenly cratered after Meloni, a conservative Catholic, described Trump's comments about the Pope as unacceptable, sparking a furious rebuke from the president. So in this video, we're going to do a little retrospective into the Trump-Meloni relationship, explain why they've fallen out, and how this fits into a wider European trend. If you love staying informed and want some of the best reporting on YouTube, then subscribe and ring the bell for more. So, let's start with a bit of context on the Meloni-Trump relationship. The two first met in person at a dinner at the Élysée Palace in December 2024, hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron to celebrate the reopening of Notre Dame. At the event, they were photographed locked in conversation, and afterwards Meloni posted this photo on X of her and Trump grinning together. A couple of weeks later, Meloni visited Mar-a-Lago, where Trump described her as, quote, a fantastic woman who's really taking Europe by storm. And Meloni was then the only European leader to be invited to Trump's inauguration in January 2025. Meloni was also conspicuously chummy with other senior Trump administration figures. In fact, she was so chummy with Trump's former right-hand man Elon Musk that Musk was forced to deny that the two were in a romantic relationship after describing Meloni as even more beautiful on the inside than the outside in late 2024. Meloni is also one of a few European leaders to defend J.D. Vance after he criticized Europe in his infamous Munich Security Conference speech last year.
Vice President Vance was discussing something deeper: identity, democracy, freedom of speech. In short, Europe's historic role and mission. Many pretended to be outraged, calling for European pride against an American daring to lecture us. But let me tell you, as someone who is proud to be European, if those who were outraged had shown the same pride when Europe lost its strategic autonomy, tying its economy to autocratic regimes, or when European borders and our way of life were threatened by mass illegal migration, now we would live in a stronger Europe.
In that same speech, Meloni argued that, quote, American liberal leftism was being imported into Europe, with the implication that European conservatives thus had an obligation to fight side by side with their American counterparts. To this end, Meloni has occasionally rode in behind Trump on American culture war issues. In October, for instance, she took to X to thank Trump for reinstating Columbus Day. And a few days later, Trump returned the favor by describing Meloni as, quote, a beautiful young woman at his so-called Gaza Peace Summit. Anyway, originally all of this looked like savvy political maneuvering on Meloni's part. She was able to present herself as a pragmatist who could act as a proverbial bridge between Washington and Brussels, someone who could communicate European perspectives to the White House and perhaps even talk Trump down when necessary. Her apparent influence in Washington also gave Italy more heft inside the EU, and helped her position Italy as being on an equal footing with the EU's traditional heavyweights, France and Germany. Domestically, it also screened off other potential Trump whisperers on the Italian right, including most notably Lega leader Matteo Salvini, an ardent Trump fan who's nominally Meloni's coalition partner, but spends a suspicious amount of time trying to outflank her politically. It's also worth noting that Italy has a deeper economic relationship with the US than most other European countries. Before Trump's tariffs, for instance, the US was Italy's second largest export market, after only Germany, which meant that Meloni was under a fair bit of pressure to maintain a functioning economic relationship with the US in order to protect Italian businesses. However, in the past couple of weeks, Meloni has suddenly turned on Trump. We first got a sense that things might be headed in this direction last month, when, in the aftermath of her bruising referendum defeat, Meloni gave a speech in the Italian parliament where she pointedly listed a number of occasions where she had apparently stood up to Trump, including on tariffs, Greenland, and defending Italian soldiers in Afghanistan, who had, quote, been defined as useless, a thinly veiled reference to Trump's comments about troops from other NATO members staying a little back in Afghanistan. However, things got significantly testier earlier this week when Trump attacked the Pope on Truth Social. This provoked a sharp reaction from Meloni, who described Trump's comments as unacceptable, which then provoked an even sharper reaction from Trump, who, less than 24 hours later, told an Italian news outlet that, quote, "She is no longer the same person, and Italy will not be the same country. I thought she was brave, but I was wrong." So what's gone wrong here? Well, obviously, the proximate cause seems to be this ongoing spat between Trump's White House and the Vatican, which actually has quite a long history, but has come to a head in recent weeks. This spat has escalated to the point that Meloni had to sort of pick a side, and, well, if forced to choose between Trump and the Pope, Meloni was always going to pick the Pope. It's not just that Italy is a very Catholic country, but also because Meloni herself has made a lot of political hay out of her Catholicism. One of her most well-known slogans, for instance, is Deo Patria e Familia, which translates to God, Fatherland, and the Family. And a couple of years ago, a clip of her describing herself as a woman, mother, and Christian was remixed into a techno song, which went pretty viral in Italy.
Giorgia, sono una donna, sono una madre, sono cristiana.
Interestingly, Trump actually posted another edit of a similar clip to Truth Social only a couple of months ago, which goes to show quite how quickly this relationship has deteriorated. Nonetheless, even if the Pope fiasco is the proximate cause, we see at least two other, more structural reasons behind the recent deterioration of relations. The first is the war in Iran. Most European countries are against the war for a variety of reasons, but Italy is especially so because it's especially exposed to the negative externalities. Not only is Italy a big energy importer, it also just signed a long-term gas deal with Qatar, which has since been jeopardized by the war and attacks on Qatari gas facilities. And its position on Europe's southern border means that Italy would be very directly affected by any refugee crises. This was made apparent in both Meloni's parliamentary address, where she described the war as, quote, "a military operation that Italy did not agree with," and in her recent decision to suspend a long-standing defense agreement with Israel. Second, Meloni's chummy relationship with Trump has gone from being a political advantage to a political risk for her. This is in part because this chumminess just hasn't really achieved anything. Italy got slapped with the same tariffs as the rest of the EU, and Meloni has been unable to meaningfully influence American foreign policy, but also because Trump himself has become increasingly unpopular in Italy. And this speaks to a more general European trend. Right-wingers across the continent have started trying to distance themselves from the current White House as it becomes increasingly clear how toxic Trump is in Europe. Now, with stories like these filling the headlines, it's easy to be swept up in huge geopolitical and national security issues, and you might find yourself neglecting your own personal security. Your email is often overlooked when it comes to security, as you might think a couple of spam emails can't possibly be that harmful. But did you ever think about why your inbox is suddenly full of emails you don't want? Well, that's because those big tech companies that are responsible for your emails aren't built to protect your inbox. They're built to sell your data. Thankfully, Proton Mail has your back. That's because Proton Mail offers one of a few genuine tools that protect users' personal information from being monetized or misused by those tech giants. They encrypt your emails, prevent surveillance from bad actors, and give you back control over your own communications. Proton has even made it easy for you to switch over from your old cluttered email with a tool that will make this possible to achieve in just a few clicks. Or you can just start fresh with a new email account and a clean mailbox from the beginning. But that's not all. They also offer a unique generational reset for you and your family. In today's society, even those born with complete anonymity can only stay private for so long. Children are now funneled into major tech ecosystems through school tools and apps that require specific accounts. And as soon as a child opens up a basic email account, their basic privacy is being compromised, and big tech will instantly start to build an advertising profile without them even knowing. Thankfully, Proton Mail's Born Private campaign has an answer to that exact problem, as it offers you an opportunity to easily reserve an account for your child. You have the potential to protect their digital identity before profiling and tracking starts. So if you want to take back your own privacy or protect the future privacy of your family, start using Proton Mail for free using our link at proton.me/bp/TLDR, and you'll be one step closer to a fully protected online experience, free from data exploitation.